Hello, everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Jitsi or community call. We're ready to get started. I will open the microphone to the Jitsi core team. Folks, any updates you would like to make? Damien, would you like to talk a little bit about the issues that we had this night? Damien, do you hear me? Damien?
Yes, I forgot to unmute. So there was a network glitch at some point during the day in Europe, like early morning, I think, where the Jikofus basically lost the bridges, but this was like for 5 minutes and it recovered quickly. So that was that.
Thank you very much. Jonathan, Brian, Boris, George, anything from you? Maybe we've seen some issues with regard to some people reporting problems with syncing and that sort of stuff. Would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, there was a problem that we discovered, which we was not caused by not introduced by any change in our code. We think at this point it was some change in Chrome 86 where they started sending larger packets, which triggered a bug in our packet cache code, or our packet, not a cache exactly, but our packet pools that would cause us to leak packets and thus end up with the garbage collector thrashing on JVB. I believe the version that fixes this has been released to stable. So if you're seeing problems where your Java garbage collector is taking up a whole lot of time and you have bad performance, probably update to the latest stable.
Thank you very much. Any other updates from the team?
We also just found a packet leak in the Octo send code that just went in. I think it was Friday, so I don't know that's been on stable yet, but if you're seeing issues with Octo, it could be related to that.
Thank you, Brian. Anyone else?
Since we're talking about problems we fixed, there was a couple of problems with regard to XMPP reconnect. There was a failure to reconnect in some cases, and then another case where if a reconnection happened in the right time, we would be in a broken state, present in the MOOC, but not updating statistics. This could lead to load balancing not distributing equally, but favoring some bridges. This is also fixed in master from, I think, Friday, so not yet unstable, but it's in master.
All right. Thank you, Boris. Anyone else from the team wants to add something? Jaya, would you like to talk a little bit about the RTMP stuff?
Yeah, sure. So a little while back, Brian added the support for streaming, Jibri streaming to RTMP server. So we were trying to add that functionality to the iframe users. So we could use the same start recording method, and instead of providing a YouTube stream ID and a broadcast URL, you could actually provide a RTMP stream ID and then another broadcast URL, and it should work like in the general YouTube case. So that's the change we made recently.
Thank you very much, Jaya. I think we're going to conclude the update from the team at this point and open the microphone to questions and comments from the community. Go.
Hello. I have a question about the invites, this SIP invite from Jitsi.
Yep, sure.
So we have an external telephony server. It's not Asterisk, it's a custom one. And when we send the invite to Jitsi, the contact we received contains the local IP address instead of the public one. So it makes really hard to connect back to the instance. Is there a reason why is it the local one?
Sorry, can you repeat the question, please?
Yes. So when we send the invite, the SIP invite to Jitsi, what we receive back from Jitsi, it's SIP Jitsi at and the private IP address, not the public one. To register.
In which header?
In the contact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the situation with these addresses has been messed up in SIP for a very long time. And the way that it is supposed to work these days, and that's certainly the expectation that Jitsi has, is that you're going to ignore all address information that comes from Jitsi.
Okay.
And you're going to use the actual addresses from where you're getting the messages.
Okay. That's fine then. Thanks.
And then same for media. You shouldn't rely on the addresses that are in SDP. You should be doing hosted, not traversal, which is what most servers do, is described in RFC 7362. Most servers know how to do that. And it is our recommendation that you do the same and ignore all addresses that come from Jitsi.
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions?
Yeah, hello.
Hey there.
Yeah, hi. I have used that Jitsi and install it to my machine, and I see there is a very good option of sharing YouTube videos. Am I audible,
Yes.
right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yes.
that's a very awesome option I have see that anyone who can join that in meeting, everyone have in a sync to see that video of the YouTube video. And in the same way, I want to introduce one more option there, that anybody can share that any video except not only the YouTube video. So is that possible that we can play any of the video instead of only YouTube video?
So let me make sure I understand. Are you saying whether you can develop such functionality or whether you can currently do this?
Currently, I am doing this to on my machine to share any video instead of only YouTube video.
Okay. So what would you like to do? If you're already doing it, what else would you like to do?
I'm stuck on a place where I see that YouTube for YouTube sharing, we are using our YouTube API for iframe, and for the same way, I want to know how we can implement it when I have a media server to share that video, and how we can use that video into our Jitsi as the YouTube option, as like the YouTube option.
So I'm not sure whether the JavaScript APIs for video tag let you set a location. I expect they do. I suppose I would try to use that. It really depends on how you've implemented it, whether
If I
one
talk
way to
about
do it. Mm-hmm.
if I talk about that little bit about the media server, there is only simple media server which can play any video in the form of UDP packet, in the form of MP3, MP4. That's up to that. So we try all of it. We try with all of them, and what the better way to implement it? What should we use in that term? Sorry.
I really don't know because it depends a lot on what it is that you're trying to achieve. If we're talking about the same use case that we do with the YouTube video, then I expect what you would do is, you cannot do it exactly the same way, because as you've noticed yourself, the YouTube sharing feature relies on the YouTube API. A more generic way to do that would be to kind of put a URL in and then scrub it for a video tag, and then share that video tag and apply controls on that video tag, right? Now, obviously, this is, you're opening yourself up to all sorts of problems, because what if there's multiple video tags? What if the one that you actually want to share isn't the one that comes first? How are you going to recognize which one the user wants? Are you going to make them maybe paste the URL to the video tag itself? I would say that would be a very, very challenging thing to do in a completely universal way.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out your constraints first, and then from there, you could find a way to control it. You mentioned at one point streaming with UDP, which sounded maybe somewhat like an overkill for a thing here. But again, I don't know your constraints. So yeah, I'm afraid it can't be any more helpful than that.
Okay, so for an overview, we can change it through the UI, through the JS only, or we need to change in some component also, like GCOF or
the YouTube support is entirely client side, so you should only require client side changes.
Okay, thank you.
You're most welcome. Other questions?
Hello, this is Johnny. May I ask a question?
Hey, Johnny, you absolutely can.
Thank you. So we have a problem where sometimes some participants have interrupted connection status in our clients, and only some clients get that error. I mean, for example, one participant could be seen by another one, but this other participant cannot see this first participant. So we were wondering if there is anything we can do when the connection status goes to interrupted, anything that we can do from the client other than reconnecting the user completely to the call.
So is that happening on a deployment of your own, or are you using the Meet Jitsi one? What's the situation?
It is a self-hosted deployment, and we are using libjitsi Meet with their own UI, and we also could replicate it on Meet Jitsi on this one. When a user changes the network, for example, changes Wi-Fi, then another user could not see him, goes to interrupt it. And then when he goes back to the original Wi-Fi, then they can see him again. That's what we could reproduce here. But it's a similar problem that we experience.
Well, the first thing would be to try and identify where the flow gets interrupted, right? Whether our packets even still reaching the bridge. Because if you're changing interfaces, on the sender side, then it could be that a connection is never reestablished there. And if the issue, it sounds strange that the issue would be on the client side, because then you would probably just have, on the receiver side, because then you would probably just have all videos interrupt, right? It is unlikely that it would be strange if the sender continues sending and everyone else is getting them except for one specific receiver. That would be weird. So yeah, I guess your next step should be to just figure out exactly where the flow of media is interrupted, because that would define what problem you're solving. If like if you have a sender that changes networks and goes from Wi-Fi to 3G, I would suspect that, it could be that maybe you have residual Wi-Fi connectivity, so the device hasn't completely realized that the Wi-Fi network is lost, and Jitsi is still trying to send data over that interface. There's not that would require optimizations on the WebRTC level if you want to fix that. Or you mean not necessarily? I guess you could track signal and force a renegotiation as well. But by default, no, actually, if you're talking from a browser, you can't really detect that. So you're kind of at the mercy of WebRTC. If you have a web sender that changes from Wi-Fi to another interface, then you're kind of at the mercy of WebRTC. I don't know if anyone else here wants to offer any thoughts.
So in this case, I would expect that ICE would fail and it would just restart. But it's weird that like others are seeing the participant, but this one is not seeing anyone else. So that's something I never seen. I've seen very often the case where you're switching interfaces and then you would just have to reconnect the media connection. But yeah, no, nothing like that before. And if you like wait long enough, does it recover or not? It just stays broken.
So we left it for more than 10 or 20 minutes, and it was still as interrupted. And maybe to add more to explain, in our case, we have enabled ICE reconnects, and we have seen it especially when a user has an ICE reconnect. Maybe some of the other participants will get him again. The video will go to active, the status, but only for some it will remain interrupted, and it remains like that until the original participant fully reconnects to the meeting.
And are you using Octo?
No, we're not using Octo, just one bridge per conference.
It sounds
if I may add something here, I think it might be network specific to the other network you're switching to. So maybe a firewall issue. So you might need to check that. So in the first network, everything is flowing correctly. Then when you switch, maybe you have a firewall problem.
Yeah, I think those are very good points. So we'll try to find
you want to make sure you can look at SSRCs very easily. You can just TCP dump the traffic at the bridge and at the clients and just see what it is that it's actually, because what you want to distinguish is this a problem of media not making it to the client, or is it a problem of media making it to the client, but the client is somewhat in a weird state and it's not playing it out? So I would say you probably need to start there and just figure out the transport side of things, and what data is actually circulating, and then from then on, that would give you a better understanding of the problem that you're facing.
Good. Well, thank you very much. And is there any way that this client could restart only the connection to one participant's video without fully?
No, there's one single connection in terms of receiving. There's just a single peer connection altogether, right? So all media streams arrive on the same peer connection.
Oh, okay, I see. So
if you're not rendering it, that specific user, it's either because you're not getting all or enough of the data, or because something in the receiver state is messed up.
Oh,
right?
Okay. Okay. Very good. Thank you.
Other
Phil.
commissions? So yeah, you're welcome.
Can I ask one more?
Commissions. Go and do
Yep.
one more commission.
Thank you very much. So the other question we have is we are interested in setting the quality per participant. So one client could define, I want 720 for this one and 360 for this one and so on. We have seen some developments on that. Is that possible? Is that something that you plan to
You can actually do
in the
it.
future? Or?
You can actually do it from this very client right now. If you go in the 3 dots menu and go to manage video quality, you see that that's something you can do. So you could just go and look at the code and how we do that.
Right. So we did that, but what I mean is to set not just one global receiving resolution, but setting it per each participant, being specific.
We don't have that yet. That's in progress. Emil, I think he's talking about per sender per receiver, where we just allow one value per receiver. Yeah, not yet. There's some work happening for that.
Yeah, I think it is important to say that we are working on that. I think Boris is working on something in that area. So
good.
Should
Thank you.
soon. You're very welcome. Other commissions.
Hi guys, so Mohammed here. I'm just having a question about enabling Octo with libjitsi meet. So I have been trying to get it working for a while, but I can see probability 1 as a method on the API, so I'm not sure if it is actually supported or not.
Yes, it is. Boris, you want to take that, or? Oh, Boris is not here anymore, I think. Brian, maybe?
Sorry, could you repeat it again?
How do you enable Octo through libjitsi meet?
Oh, this should be in the docs. There's a couple things, like there's an Octo probability setting, I think, that's in config.js. So it has to be enabled. There's a bridge configuration for it. Maybe even something in Jacofo, and I think also something on the web. But there should be, the readmes and stuff should have the links to all those. Have you looked at those and are wondering about something specifically, or?
No. So just to clarify, so I have Octo working using the web application, okay? But we built our own UI, and then we're connecting to Jitsi over libmeet API. So whenever we're sending probability 1 within the JSON configuration, it is not picking that at all. So if I access
so you're using Jitsi meet and libjitsi meet, but your own web on top of that.
Yes.
Okay. I don't know what would be going on there. I would post something in the forums where we can get logs and stuff. Maybe that would be my thought.
I actually did get a response, so I thought asking the question here.
Okay. Yeah, if you could paste the thread in the chat, maybe.
So just check where you're passing that probability. Is it on the I'm not sure where that should be passed, whether on connection or the conference. There are 2 places where you can pass options. And I think from Jitsi meet, we pass it all the configurations in both places. So maybe you're setting it in the wrong place.
So I'm passing it within in the connection, but it's not baking whatever I'm passing. And even when I tried to point my deployment over to meet.jitsi or beta, it's not working as well.
So yeah, that's probably you're passing it on the wrong place, I think. So there are 2 places where you can pass, and by default, I think Jitsi meet is passing it all of them to both places. So try passing it on the connection and on the conference and see which one is the correct one.
Sure, I'll try that. My second question is regarding the enabling WebSockets. So there was an announcement a few weeks back that using latest GVBs, you have to enable WebSockets and Calibri WebSockets. So we have auto scaling in place. So I'm not sure how we can manage that with auto scaling. Is this WebSocket URL specific to HGVB? So we need to redefine that.
Yes.
So it needs to be predefined, knowing the IP address of the GVB.
It needs to be in the configuration. Yes, it needs the URL part needs to be in the configuration of the JVB of every instance.
And can you share any ideas on how you are doing that on your current infrastructure?
So the way we're currently handling that is basically each JVB, when it comes up, registers itself via dynamic DNS, basically, that we have set up, and they're behind the same SSL certificate, and each of them have access to it. And so basically you get a secure SSL to that particular JVB, and then we just clean it up when the JVB comes down again. So as we auto scale up and down, we just have fewer or more DNS entries.
So considering that HGVB will has its own IP address, how this will be managed? Are you using a load balancer?
No, right now each JVB then actually is listening on 443 and is basically registers its IP address with public DNS, and then the browser is actually looking it up and connecting.
So you're reaching the GVB using the GVB public DNS?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So one other thing that we have done in similar situations in the past, I don't know if this is helpful, is that if we know a well-known pool of IP addresses, we come up with naming that is statically mapped to IP addresses, right? So that you know that if my IP address is this, therefore my name should be that.
And then like pre-register all that DNS if you have it.
Right.
Yeah.
So that spares you the dynamic DNS registration, but it means that you have to run with a well-known pool of IP addresses.
Another way we were doing it at one point was we'd have a load balancer ahead of it, and that the load balancer would know all of the names. Basically, we're using ALBs and target groups and rules in the target groups around, if you're coming in with this name, go to this endpoint. We eventually scrapped that for a more directory-based approach, where if you're coming in with this path, because the JVB can be configured to register itself with a path. So then the JVB would advertise this common URL that included this path, and that was how it then resolved itself in the end. So there's sort of a number of ways you can do that depending on how you're configured. We ended up eventually having so many JVBs that most of the existing load balancer stuff, just we ran out of items in the list that they'd allow us to register and that sort of thing. So that's why we just switched back to pure DNS, because once we ended up with thousands of JVBs, that just didn't scale anymore.
Gotcha. And is enabling WebSocket now is mandatory, guys, or we can rely on the data channel still?
Yeah, you shouldn't rely on the data channel.
I should or shouldn't?
Should not.
Okay. Thank you.
By the way, on the question about the Octo thing, I just checked, and you should pass this probability option on the Jitsi conference instance when you're creating it, actually.
In the Jitsi conference instance, what do you mean?
So you pass bunch of options when you create the conference instance, right? So you should pass it there, not actually on the connection, as you said.
Okay. Thank you. I'll give it a try.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Now I'm going to love that word for the rest of my life.
Hi there.
Hey
so
there.
I have a question. We are.
Sorry, we only take questions.
Sorry.
No, never mind. I was trying to make a joke. Sorry, go for it.
Okay, so we are using XMPP presence to send a lot more information. We have a feature that requires us to basically send information from client to client through XMPP, and we're doing this fairly often. And what we're noticing is that this seems to result in a memory leak. The longer that we use, well, the size of the application balloons up, and then I drilled down using the memory profile in Google Chrome, and it seems to it looks like all of the strings, the XMPP strings, are cached indefinitely, and it doesn't seem like they're ever cleared out. And I was wondering if you guys knew about this. Is this just a known issue, because normally you don't send very much through XMPP, or is there something we need to do to manually flush it out?
Yeah.
So basically,
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So just a quick question. So basically, you're using like the whole Jitsi Meet suite, and you have like done some changes there to add this information. Is that correct?
We modified Jitsi Meet, and we modified libJitsi Meet in order to send this information through XMPP.
Yeah. So what are you using? Are you sending them directly by sending by using this send command by libJitsi Meet, or the participant properties, or how you have implemented?
Yeah, participant properties. Yes.
Yeah. So I think they're implemented the same way. So the thing with the presence is that you may need to send multiple presences during the call, let's say, and the logic behind those stuff is that you're setting a value and it's valid until you clear it, basically, or change it with something else. So that means that when you set some values, it's going to be valid indefinitely. That means that basically when another, and this is practically needed, because if another participant enters the call, it needs to get the same values for the present for this participant. Like, for example, let's say some information about the display name, for example.
Right.
No, Chris,
the way we have implemented it.
But what I'm seeing here is that we do want to retain that information, the presence property. We do want that to persist. That's not the problem. The problem is that all the previous messages through XMPP are retained in memory.
So you're talking about
all the previous
presence, but messages, XMPP messages.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have the bug logs, and we keep all the messages so we can download it, and we have never seen a problem with that. How big are your messages? Just curious.
Well, we're sending a lot of them.
So what you probably want to do is not do that through XMPP, and do it through the bridge, because the thinking is that we used to do that stuff a lot as well, and then it became fairly problematic for our signaling nodes, because the architecture that you're supposed to have with Jitsi is a very lightweight signaling node with Prosody and GCOFO on it, and then a ton of bridges behind it. And if you have the clients that are connected to all these bridges send messages through XMPP, it's all going to go through the same supposedly lightweight node. And it doesn't, if you're just sending messages, then there's really no reason to use XMPP. You could say, well, for presence, it's not trivial to implement presence, so you want to do it through XMPP, that's fine. But if it's just fire and forget messages, you really just want to do that through the bridges, through the the data channel, things that are not really data channels with WebSockets. Because they're supposed to handle the heavy load. So if it's heavy load, put it on the bridge.
Okay, so if we sent these updates through the bridge, would we still get persistence, so that when a new client joins the conference, they would be able to get the latest state from each?
But you said messages, not presence, right?
Well, it is presence. It is, but what we're seeing is that the basically the update string of XMPP is retained in messaging, or it is retained in memory, and I think that's because of logging. I think someone mentioned that, and that's seemed to indicate that it was basically every update to the presence is logged.
But so let me ask you a quick question. Like, for example, you're sending a comment, let's say with name A and value B, right?
Yeah.
Then you're gonna send a comment with again a comment A with value C, and you're saying that somewhere is retained both values. Is that correct? Or you're saying that basically you're sending multiple different comments and they're just a lot?
No, it is just one presence property that has different values continuously. And it seems like a log of all of those is stored.
And I see it, but okay, the old values are not sent through the network, is that correct? So they are retained somewhere internally. Okay. Okay, yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. So it sounds like the right way to do things here. If this truly is a debug thing, then we're obviously not doing it because we're never hitting the issue. So if you wanted to have a look at that and offer a way of limiting that cache to a certain size, we'll be interested in that contribution.
Okay, so okay. Can you point me in the right direction as to where is the code that caches these updates? Or
you can follow it from app conference save logs.
App conference save logs. Okay. Okay, I will look into that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi sir, my name is Asamanda, and I have started Jitsi recently, and I am just a beginner. So can you help me where I can get some like docs and all the configs, and how can I study more and more about it?
About what? About setting up your own instance, or?
I have set up my own instance using the docs in the handbook, but I need more like configuration option and more control on the instance properties. So how can I read more about all these things?
Everything that we have is in the handbook. Another additional source of information about config.js properties is always to just go to meet.jitsi/config.js and have a look at what's going on in there. That's about it, I'm afraid, unless I'm missing something and someone here wants to correct me. But if you're not finding what you need in the handbook, and then then just try having a look at config.js and look at all the properties that we're doing. Part of the handbook is the iframe interface, and that contains a lot of information on various properties as well. So have a look at that. Anyone else here has ideas?
And you can always drop a question in the community forum. There are a lot of people answering there.
Okay. Hopefully that helps. Other questions?
Hi, my name is Leo. I have a question on the settings. If I go to low bandwidth mode under the settings, when I do that, when I say manage video quality, low bandwidth, it turns off, in TalView, it basically turns off everybody's video, so I don't see it.
Yes.
What we're seeing, I wanted to verify this, but what we're seeing on when we in our application is that it seems like the video still gets sent to the client is still receiving the video, and we're able when we display it in another place, we're still able to display it. It's just that it appears that in TileView we're just covering it up, but it's still being received. Like if I click on low bandwidth, I stop sending the video, but I'm still receiving it. Does that sound right?
No. What's happening is that if you are in if you go to low bandwidth, you will stop sending, you will tell the bridge that you want to receive. You no longer want to receive video except for screen sharing, which is still video. So make sure that's not what you're seeing. Right? Screen sharing will continue to come through.
Right.
And that setting will have no impact on anyone else in the conference. So everyone else will keep sending and receiving the way they were before. So, so maybe you can start by making sure that that's not part of the confusion, right? It's only a local setting. Well, local is in, it only concerns a specific participant and their relationship with the bridge. Now, if you're saying that, hey, I clicked low bandwidth, there was no screen sharing, and yet I was getting tons of video, that's a bug.
That's what we're seeing, yeah, yeah.
Are you able to reproduce it on me, Jitsi?
No, it's in our own application because it made Jitsi the only view we have is this tile view. So in our own application, we can actually toggle to another view. And when we toggle back to tile view, it does cover it up. But in the other view, we're able to see the video. So
what I suspect, what's coming to my mind right now is that the message that tells the bridge to stop sending video is not making it to the bridge, which is typically something that happens if the data channels are failing. And so there could be a problem with the data channel setup.
Okay. How would we potentially debug that?
Yeah, you would look at in the console for. I think we're supposed to show an error message if the data channel fails. Damien, am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yes, you can start there.
Okay. So start in the console and look to make sure the data channel. If the data channel is enabled, set up successfully, does that also show up in the console? Will it give me a confirmation?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay. I'll start there. That's super helpful. Thanks, guys.
Good luck. Let us know next time how it went.
Will do.
Any other questions?
Hi, this is Girish. I have a question regarding the lobby feature. Can I proceed? Sure.
Go for it.
Okay. Yeah. So I was successful in setting up the lobby feature, and I also managed to enable the lobby by default whenever the host joins the meeting. Now my application further requires that I need to skip the lobby for some participants. Now to go in more depth, we can consider that I have a particular email ID at my client end, and I get the pool of all the email IDs, and I just need to compare that if that email ID is present in that pool of IDs, then I need to skip the lobby for that particular email ID. So I'm trying to achieve this using the Prosody plugin for lobby, but I'm not sure that we get the email IDs because I check the logs and I can see the JID and the username itself in the Lua file. Is there any better way to achieve this?
Are you using JWT?
No, I'm not using JWT.
And normal authentication?
Yeah, so authentication, I've developed my own authentication over the Jitsi source code. So you can say that I have my local authentication and a separate node server to take care about the authentication and all. But now, whenever the user is authenticated and if that user is present in that pool of IDs, so I need to skip that particular user.
Yeah. So you need to extend basically what you have. So every participant in Prosody has a session, in which session your authentication module can put the email, and this you can check in the lobbies the current users email, getting it out from the session. Is it in the pool of those that are allowed to enter and stuff like that? So you can put that email in the user session object. There are plenty of examples in the open source modules.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so basically the whole logic will come into the prosody plugins itself, right?
Yeah, checking the. We already have like a code where it checks a predefined configuration list for the recorders to pass them through, like whitelist is code, something like that in the lobby module. So there you need to put your checks, checking the session, the email from the session with a pool of IDs to pass them through for this room.
Okay, yeah, got it. So I have seen the whitelist part as well. I'll definitely try it out. Thank you, thank you.
All right, one last question.
Yeah, one question from my side is end-to-end encryption between the GVBs is part of your roadmap?
Is part of what, sorry?
Are you working on end-to-end encryption between the GVBs in case of geolocation support?
So if you turn on end-to-end encryption, it does go between the JVBs, right?
No, so
I
if I
guess
have
what you're
Octo enabled,
I guess what you're asking for is hop-by-hop encryption from one JVB to another when end-to-end encryption is not being used. And the answer to that is it is something that we'd like to have at some point. It's that we're not currently working on it actively. So if you're doing that, you have to make sure that you have an encrypted connection between bridges, whether it's a VPN solution of sorts or some sort of a private network. That's up to you.
Okay, thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you very much for joining this week's call, and have a wonderful 15 days, and see you again then. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.